I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, October the 5th, brought to you in part by the International Brangus Breeders Association. To learn some of the advantages of introducing Brangus into your herd, or to find out where you can go to some Brangus production sales this fall, visit GoBrangus.com. We got the October scenario, and you guys get tired of me calling it Dead Calf Month, but I tell you what, if you guys are getting new arrivals of calves, especially kind of a high risk kind of calves, some that are short weaned or not weaned at all, maybe haven't had their shots. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But the whole October scenario is, but our yearlings are drying up. We don't hardly have any yearlings available at all. There are some coming out of the foothills of the Rockies. Most of those are likely already spoken for. They've already been contracted or bought on a video, but they may be delivering right now, which is the only thing that's doing for the market is filling up pen space and making it harder to get rid of the big calves. But not many yearlings moving right now. And if you've got true yearlings, I tell you what, they're a hot commodity. But lots of calves moving, especially in the northern plains. We've seen big sales in the last week or so in Nebraska, South Dakota, places like that. We're starting to move some of the early sales of the spring-born calves. But I tell you what, the market's just going either direction on these calves. We've got some of your big strings of ranch calves with a long reputation on them. Some of those guys can get by without those calves being weaned. Now they'll likely have 2 rounds of shots on them, and some of them being in a program. So that helps. But then you've got the other side, the small bunches of odd kinds and quality. The males are still bulls. They don't have any shots, calling them all natural. There's 2 kinds of all natural guys. There's the certified all natural, and then there's the all natural calves that you get in some places that just haven't been touched at all. They've never had a shot, they haven't been castrated, they haven't been dehorned, they haven't been worked, they haven't been anything. Remember which kind of all natural gets the premium. But I tell you what, we're just seeing calves moving, and it's pulling the market down a little bit. We actually saw our index levels, which is based on an 800-pound steer, go up this week, and that's from some of your sales that had the last of the true yearlings, and they're selling awful well. But tell you what, there's a big wide price spread on a 5 to 700 or 750-pound calf, and it's pretty tough there, and it's hard to guess what those calves might bring. So you've got to, if you're going to sell this time of year, if you're going to calve in the early spring there, and you want to try to make a big calf by fall, and you're going to keep doing that right in the rut of everybody else, you've got to do everything right to even try to have a guesstimate of what your cattle might bring. If not, they're going to sell off the market. What else went on around? We opened the week up with the cattle on feed report, which was really bearish, on the placement numbers anyway. And the board opened the week Monday morning down, but then by the time the day was over, it was up. Then it was up big again. For the most part, your board was up big the first 2 days of the week, and then it was down pretty significantly on your feeder cattle the last 3 days of the week because of the corn stocks report, or all the grain stocks report that come out, and your corn and beans were up big time on Wednesday, and that took your feeder market down. It pulled your fat cattle market down a little bit too, and I don't understand why it does that, but it does. But your corn your stocks were down 10% over a year ago. Bean stocks were down 42% compared to the same report a year ago, and wheat stocks were down 8%, so that was significant. But we pretty much got through that. By the late in the week, we had already absorbed all that. We had absorbed the bearish cattle on feed report by the end of the day Monday, so those big reports didn't last too long. We're still trying to work through all the information that come out of some of those reports, like your cattle on feed report. It said that cattle that have been on feed for over 150 days, so they'd be pretty ripe, most of them, if they went on at a decent weight. They were up over 20% compared to the same report a year ago. Wow, you're thinking, goodness gracious, that is a lot of cattle to work through. But I don't know, I think some of these USDA numbers, they lag a little bit behind. You would think that would explain part of our big, heavy carcass weights, which it does. But we also saw some information here late in the week, this last week, that says we've kind of peaked out on our carcass weights. So now we're going to start easing back a little bit. So, and we've had pretty good movement of cash fat cattle, and we've seen our slaughter pick up compared to a year ago. So we may be starting to turn the tide a little bit, guys, and get this thing back to supply back in the cattleman's favor. And we've gained $6 in the last 3 weeks on fat cattle. It's time to keep digging, guys. Keep making ground. You've got, I think we could get to $1.15 or maybe better here in the next 30 to 45 days. But we just got to keep digging, keep digging. Don't sell your cattle on a Monday or Tuesday. If you're going to take it on Wednesday, make sure it's at least $1 or $2 better, and hold out for that. But we're making ground, and it's time to do it on your fat cattle. We're moving big swaths of calves right now. We're hoping to maybe kind of hold the market on those, but your calf market is just so up and down, like I said, as to condition and quality and reputation. And don't forget, the biggest thing that helps your calf market when you're selling cattle, feeder cattle, calves, anything, they've done several tests on that. The biggest thing that makes a difference on price is lot size. So the more of them you can get bunched up, the better. And if you're selling at a sale barn that just wants to sort the heck out of them and tell them, hey, these cattle are pretty close. You may not be able to hold a level across their back, but they're all the same age. They've been running together. Keep them in as big a bunches as you can. If they have similar quality and everything, they're going pretty good. Some of these auctions will sell half interest in one if you let them. And those are the sales that don't have too big of receipts, and they're still running at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. But let's look at your board for last week. October live cattle futures, Monday was up 37 cents after starting the day down. Tuesday up 95. Wednesday down 35. Thursday down 2 cents. Friday down 35 cents. Ending the day with October live cattle futures, ending the week at 108.17. Up 60 cents for the week, actually, because of the up markets early in the week. December ended the week at 111.10, so that's kind of what we're looking at for the next out front, and that was down 30 cents for the week. October feeder cattle, Monday was up 60, Tuesday up $2, Wednesday down 157, Thursday down 42, Friday down $1.02. With October ending the week on feeder cattle futures at 139.90, and you're saying, hey, wait a minute, our index levels are up over 142, pretty good. Well, September went off the board, and so now it's going to be kind of topsy-turvy here, and your feeder cattle people that are invested in the futures, they know that these big calves are going to continue to pull the market down, and they are. But 139.90 based on an 800-pound steer on October feeder cattle futures ending the week. That was down 42 cents for the week. November ended the week at 139.87, down 28 cents for the week. Your fat cattle trade through Thursday, 92,800 head. That's pretty good movement. And then we had some cleanup deals on Friday, so we're going to have over 100,000 head again. That's good movement on cash trade, and we need to continue to support the cash sales there. That's what's pulling the market, and then all the guys that sell formulated off of that, they get to enjoy the higher prices too, but they're not doing anything to earn it. But I tell you what, the cash sellers are doing a good job working through this market here in the last few weeks. But you look at live sales of steers and heifers, ranged in price from 104 to 109, but mostly 107. In fact, your steer live weighted average price through Thursday was 107.11, and that's fully $2 higher than the previous week there. And so, like I said, we've gained $6 live in the last 3 weeks. Dress sales steers and heifers had a very narrow range all through the week. Of course, we didn't see that much dress trade until mid to late part of the week, and everything pretty much brought the same. But all through the week, the only thing we saw reported was 167 to 168. It was mostly at 168. Your dress steer weighted average 167.68, so that's nearly $3 higher for the week so far. And through Thursday and then Friday, we had a little bit more trade. Iowa 2300, 107 to 108 and a quarter on Friday, so that's at the top of the price range. 168 dress. Nebraska had nearly 5,000 confirmed on Friday, 107 and 168, so no cheaper there, even though the board was easing off just a little bit late in the week. Kansas and Texas sold just a few loads at 107. So we're going to get over 100,000 head. Our market at the end of the week is at the top of the price range. So let's go into this week, no matter what the board says, thinking that we're going to gain another buck or two, and then should be able to do it. Box beef cutout values higher, through the last part of September, which never happened. So we've had excellent export sales, and that's what's helping do all this stuff. But we're holding it up pretty good. There's been some talk about introducing box beef cutout values on the board, because now they say we're going to have pork cutouts. I don't know. That's interesting conversation there. If we have box beef cutouts on the board, yeah, that would be great. But as soon as you do that, folks are going to want to start tying your fat cattle market to it. And that could be a slippery slope, guys. There's nothing that packers can manipulate more than box beef cutout values. They basically set the price on there, and then the wholesale buyers just buy as much volume as they need, and if they think it's a good price, they'll buy more, and they think it's too high, they'll buy less, but they will buy it. So I don't know that we want your fat cattle market to be a percentage of box beef cutout values, and if we start publicly trading those, they'll want to do something like that. Once you make it a percentage of it, where your packers are going to get the same type of percentage markup all the time, just like a retail store, well, then you've limited your upside in case we ever get the supplies back in our favor. So I don't know what to think about that, but they're talking about introducing pork cutouts on the futures market, so that'll be interesting to see. But choice cuts, your weighted average for all week last week on choice, 218.10, that was up $1.23 compared to your weighted average from the previous week. Select cuts, all your sales last week had a weighted average of 207.24. That was up 35 cents compared to the weighted average from the previous week. Movement of 705 loads. So that's pretty significant movement. And you think, well, that's not as much as the guys aren't hand to mouth as much as they were during the COVID and coming out of it. And your packers are back putting a lot of those sales off out front. So you don't get to see that. That's another reason we don't know if we really want to tie your fat cattle market to box beef cutout values, because they can move those sales out front and then they don't end up getting reported. But look at your slaughter for the week last week, 665,000. That was up 14,000 from the previous week, up 20,000 from the same week a year ago. Very, very significant. This is a big first time we've really eclipsed in a big way your year ago slaughter. That's how you catch up. And we're seeing your actual slaughter data from 2 weeks ago come in, and we saw that carcass weights were finally a pound lighter than the previous report. So you think a pound, that's not a big deal on an average steer carcass weight. Well, it is when you don't have any holidays or anything jacking with it. It's pretty good information there. And yes, we're still 23 pounds heavier than the same time a year ago, but just last week we were 29 pounds heavier than a year ago. So we're starting to come off a little bit, and this was the first time that we saw average steer dress carcass weights come in lighter. That's the first time we've seen that, them come in lighter than the previous week since July. So we've gotten to that, and a lot of people were saying that we're going to continue to see heavier carcass weights all through the fall. And it could come back heavier again this next week, but I think this is a good sign that we're starting to top out on this. What else is going on? I want to mention, and I want you guys to get on, Monday is the last day that we can make a comment on the mandatory RFID tag. So get on there on the USDA website. You can go on to RCAF, you can go on to U.S. Cattlemen's Association, some of those places, and find out where to go make your comment. But it's very important you get on there Monday, if you haven't already done it, and make a comment about how making those RFID tags mandatory is going to ruin your life and continue to ruin the cattle industry, as it's going to force more and more of our smaller producers out of the business. And as you do that, you're just losing everything. It's more integration, more vertical alignment, and you want to be sure to get on and do that. Also, Monday is going to be the first day that we see the expanded limits, so be careful there while you're doing that, but we'll talk more about that next week, or this coming week later on. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 142.33. That was up $1.45 compared to the end of the previous week. So we saw them gain about $1.50 there. I mentioned that earlier. That's because of the few yearlings that are there are selling really, really well. But the calf market is going to continue to pull down on feeders in general as we work through these big droves of fall calves as we move further and further into the fall. Your cash feeders for the week. Your feeder type cattle going right into the feedlot. Some of those would have been long time backgrounded calves, but those would have been the long weaned ones. Those cattle have been together for a long time. And the true yearlings, cattle going right into the feedlot, sold mostly steady to $2 higher. Now calves, it's just anybody's guess. Very uneven. We've seen some long strings come in the last week or so. Had some big sales I'm fixing to tell you about up in Nebraska, where the calves selling really well. These are the reputation deals, and most of your farmer feeders that have had them before are coming in there and giving a big price for them. You get further east and further south, and you see guys sitting in sales buying calves so cheap you can't believe it. Especially a soft heifer calf with some flesh on her, weighing in the heavy 5s or 6s. I tell you what, they can get down there maybe just over $1 or maybe under $1 in a lot of places like that. If you want to order some of those, call some guys over in that area, because you can get some of them heifer calves, soft balling heifer calves, high risk, really cheap. I tell you what, I've seen it here, and I see it every year and have for the last 30 years. But let's talk about some of your sales from late last week. Bloomington, Wisconsin, Bloomington Livestock Exchange, 64 head, 858 pound steers, bring 149 a quarter. Wow, that's a heck of a price there. How about on some bigger feeder steers? And it's hard to even call these feeders, they're more near beers, but St. Onge, South Dakota, St. Onge Livestock there, Justin Tupper and Company, on Friday sold 214 head of 1,095, might as well say 1,100 pound steers. And once upon a time that was a finished weight, not anymore. But 1,100 pound steers at $128 on a $107 fat cattle market. That's pretty darn good. How about some of these specials that we saw? How about Imperial, Nebraska on Saturday had a special. 4,100 head there, Imperial auction market, and that's a pretty impressive market there. Look at this automated market report from there, and you see very well tested in your lighter calf weights there. That was a really significant market late in the week, and just showing you how many calves are moving there. Look at some of your best tested weights of steers. 395 head of 4-weight steers average 454 pounds at 178.83. That's on all the 4-weight steers, guys. 567 head of the 5-weight steer calves average 547 at 163 and a quarter. Now look at some of those heifer calf quotes there. Basically your 400 to 700 pound heifer calves, they all bring about the same per pound. And if you look at the average prices on those different weight groups, they're within about $6 a hundred of each other. which is that's typical for this time of year, but it's still kind of eye-opening. Let's look at Crawford, Nebraska. Crawford Livestock Market had 5,600 head on Friday. Wow. Didn't have a good sale. They had a lighter run last week, so hard to really tell, but then some of their calf quotes were unbelievable. 1,247 head of 5-weight steer calves, averaged 549 at 162.17 on all of them. 1,250 head of 5-weight steers, 162.17 on the average. 1,039 head of 6-weight steers, averaged 641 at 157.35. Look at some of your heifers. There were 844 head of 4-weight heifers, averaged 452 at 161.33. 612 head of the 5-weight heifers, averaged 545, 148.04. Top quote that I saw anywhere late last week come out of Crawford there. 154 head of 774-pound steer calves, bring $163. That's your feeder flash for Monday.